consent order said, you have to test until you can't find this chemical anymore. And so they started testing further and further and further and further out, and the more they test, the more they find. And this compound is not just making its way through the groundwater, which is what everybody kind of expected. They expected, well, if you contaminate the groundwater under this plant, it's going to move in the way that groundwater does, which is usually towards a river. So if you've got groundwater, if you've got a river in the middle, the groundwater on this side is going to move towards the river, and the groundwater on that side is going to move towards the river, kind of just like it would on the surface. Well, then they started to find this stuff up gradient of the plant, and so we realized that because this compound, which is a very unique compound, and it's actually a family of compounds, there are thousands of different molecules of PFAS, but it stands for per or polyfluorinated alkyl substances, and it's basically a chain molecule made up of carbon atoms with fluorine atoms linked to them. So it kind of looks like well, we don't know what it actually looks like because it's real small, but the way they draw it is just a long chain like this with other atoms off of it, and then they'll stick, like a hydrogen or a oxygen or a sulfur atom on there, and that changes the properties of that just a little bit. Well, these compounds never break down. They're called forever chemicals. And the reason they're called forever chemicals is because they are incredibly durable. And so you can't burn them unless you burn them at incredibly high temperatures. You can't run them through a treatment plant, which is why we're in the place we're in now. The Cape Fear Public Utility Authority has, because we're at the end of the river and everybody puts their waste in above us, they had a very sophisticated water treatment plant. But even with one of the most sophisticated water treatment plants in the state, one of the most sophisticated in the country, they didn't remove even 1% of PFAS because these compounds are very durable. So we've got an ever-expanding ring of contamination at the site. We know it's moving in the air, and so when these compounds came out of the smokestack, they went with the wind and they settled to the ground, and then they soaked down into the groundwater and they contaminated wells.